The American right wing continues to wage a brave and courageous war against the scourge, as Trump used to say it, of electric vehicles. And, I think part of what's going on here is that the electric vehicle is much more visible as a scapegoat than, if you've replaced your gas stove with an induction oven the way I have. It's not really visible in the same way that out on the highways you see these electric vehicles and you can frame them and scapegoat them as evil wrongdoers or whatever. Here's Charles Payne on Fox News yesterday unleashing an anti-electric vehicle tirade laced with, count the lies. I struggle to keep up with the number of lies that are told. Do facts matter anymore? It seems clear that the answer is no, but let's listen to what he had to say and then we'll discuss it.
In fact, he hit on a lot of amazing, fantastic points. Anyone out there who feels great about themselves as a good global citizen because they're driving an electric car? No. You are absolutely strip mining the planet. You're putting little kids in the Congo out 14 years old into filthy, dirty water for 20 hours a day. You are a slave master. You're not a good citizen. Stop patting yourself on the back. By the way, they're not rare. They're hard to get. They're expensive to get, and they're dangerous to get. That's why we stopped mining for them. But it's so crazy. By the way, the only thing he missed was the $1 billion. How about hundreds of billions of dollars, right? So, but one quick thing, because I'm getting a wrap. I think it's a huge mistake for Republicans to start dissing these UAW.
Okay, so now he gets off onto UAW workers. So let's talk about a few of these things. The argument against electric vehicles in favor of gas-powered vehicles is a bogus argument. Now, if you want to come to me, maybe drenched in tears, and say, sir, I don't believe today's electric vehicles are the end point of transportation, I would say to you, that's a great conversation to have. We are going to see changes to battery technology. We are going to see hydrogen. I just saw an incredible demo of a hydrogen fueled vehicle. Maybe we're going to go in the direction of hydrogen. I would grant you today's electric vehicles are not the end point, but at a fundamental basic level, efficiency per mile is much higher with electric vehicles. And so however we back in how they are made, we have to remember at a core level to go a mile in an electric vehicle, accounting for the carbon footprint of the batteries and all of these different things, it is way, way lower. Now, to address the specific things that Charles Payne is saying, last week we had this dude, I don't even know what to call him. There was a male, it was a Homo sapiens male who was interviewed at Trump's fake auto worker rally last week and said electric vehicles are bad because the engines are so simple that you need 30 to 40% fewer workers. And of course, the counterpoint is widespread electric vehicle adoption will blow up countless new industries and generate new jobs. Now, let's go through Charles Payne's arguments here. You are strip mining the planet if you drive an electric vehicle. It is true that the production of the batteries for electric vehicles requires extracting certain raw materials, lithium, cobalt, nickel, other minerals. Some of the mining practices are environmentally problematic if they aren't properly managed. But he's not telling you the other side of the story, which is the extraction of oil to transport and refine into gasoline to then have cars driving around pumping poison into the atmosphere. That is not without its environmental impacts either. Drilling for oil, especially in some of the places where we do it through practices that are harmful to the environment, is a disaster. Oil spills are a disaster. The catastrophic environmental consequences of obtaining, refining, and burning fossil fuels is a nightmare. So he's just not even going to mention that. Also, battery technology is going to improve over time. And you are going to need comparatively less and less of each of those minerals over time if we continue to fund this research. Okay. Then he says, if you drive an electric vehicle, you're putting kids in the Congo into filthy water 20 hours a day. Now, this seems to be a reference to the mining of cobalt in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It is absolutely the case that a bunch of the world's cobalt comes from there. It's used in batteries, comes from DRC. There are documented cases of child labor and unsafe conditions in some of those mines. Absolutely true, absolutely a concern. There are also major human rights concerns in the oil industry. There's exploitation, there's environmental degradation, there's conflict and wars funded around obtaining and extracting oil. How many people have died? How many kids have died over wars fought for fossil fuels? It's absurd to only tell one side of the story. And then he says electric vehicle drivers are slave masters. Any ethical concern that exists over the sourcing of the batteries or whatever he's referring to, I share the concern. But it is such a silly oversimplification to simplify driving an electric vehicle in this manner. Obviously, the electric vehicle industry is aware of those concerns. There are companies working towards more ethical sourcing. That is all going to happen much more quickly if we stop subsidizing gas-powered vehicles and instead further subsidize electric vehicles. So they're obsessed with this, and they're obsessed with it for a few different reasons. The primary reason is they love the optics, and they are tricking magats or Magapotamians or whatever. They're tricking the non-thinking right-wingers with the talking points, and the right-wingers go, see, it sounds pretty good. We should get away from these things. It's very bad. Charles Payne, completely off the wall. Just about everything he said was untrue. People in my audience trying to quit smoking or vaping, this is for you. You can't vape or smoke inside. You're tired of people seeing you put those little pouches in your lip. There is a nicotine alternative that people won't notice to help you quit. Zippix nicotine toothpicks. Our sponsor Zippix makes the only nicotine toothpick on the planet that is FDA registered. You can use it anywhere, work, restaurants, airplanes, sporting events, after a meal. The toothpicks stay in a convenient little tube that goes in your pocket or on your keychain. It's way more convenient than carrying around a huge can of pouches all day or a whole bunch of gum or whatever the case may be. Zippix nicotine toothpicks come in flavors like peppermint watermelon, sweet wood, cinnamon, whiskey. If you're not a nicotine user, try out their B12 toothpicks with caffeine instead, a quick and easy alternative to coffee. Do your lungs a favor, cut the cigarette smoke, cut the vape juice. Quitting has never been easier with Zippix nicotine toothpicks. Go to zippix.com, get 10% off with the code PACMAN10 at checkout. The link is down below.